You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, let's get it, folks. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is a Tuesday. The college basketball season has officially come to an end. Yes, it is that sad time of the year when you know that college football is over, the NFL is over, and now college football is over. But that's all right. We still have the NBA, at least for a few more games with the Utah Jazz. You still have NBA playoffs. You'll still have Mammoth playoffs coming up here. Knock on wood. We're pretty safe in saying that, don't you think, Lloyd? We can say that with some level of certainty.
I don't want to be the guy that
jinxing
jinxes it, but yes, I feel like
it
would take a colossal.
Oh, look at you putting it out there.
Yeah, it would. I know. I shouldn't even do that. I feel bad.
No, it's my fault. I did it.
You put me in this direction.
I know.
But like they're there.
They're there.
They're in the driver's seat for the top wild card spot.
Now we're going to get this out of our system right now because Bill Armstrong's going to join us at 2:00. And make no mistake, we will not talk like this in front of Bill Armstrong because Bill will reach through the mic and strangle both of us. And
he will drop kick us next time he sees us.
So just know that when Bill comes on here in about 2 hours from now, we will not be talking like this, but we will. But I think now we can say, you know what, we feel pretty good about where the Mammoth are at, and we're just a couple of weeks away from getting that playoff run started with Utah Mammoth. It is Masters Week, which means Brian Taylor will join us coming up here in just about 25 minutes from now, live from Augusta. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other. Kurt Helin will join us for his weekly conversation. We'll chat with him coming up at 1:05, and, of course, we mentioned Bill Armstrong at 2. So, look, I love college basketball. I really do. I love everything about it. I love what it, the excitement that it has. I love the sport. I really do. But there are some times when college basketball can be a little rough to watch. And there were long stretches last night in which that game was not particularly easy on the eyes. Good game, relatively close game. UConn just kind of hung in there as long as they could up against a much better Michigan team. But it wasn't, look, if you're
They should have won by 10. They should have won by 10.
If you're a college basketball hater, you had a little bit of ammunition last night. Yeah, you're right. They should have won by 10. Easily.
I'm sitting there watching that because as we discussed, we had a little burrito wager on this because I thought, I'm like, Michigan's they're gonna roll.
Yeah.
It's not even gonna be close. And there, sure enough, close enough.
Yeah. Sorry about that. All right, so let's catch up with the man himself. Tim LaComb joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Am I being a little too hard, Coach, on that game last night? Because it was tough to watch there in the second half for stretches.
Well, if you mean the 11 for 48 combined from three, which means 37 missed threes in that game, a ton of foul shots for Michigan, which that's never fun to watch. But all kind of part of the domination, I think, that Michigan, they did not shoot the ball well, but their defense, as always, was really imposing and caused tons of issues to a really dynamic, creative UConn offense. So I felt like, the size and physicality of Michigan carried the day. And you're right, sometimes the size and physicality piece is not the best to watch.
Tim LaComb, kind enough to hang out with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Just how special is this Michigan team, not just with the win last night, but the run through the tournament, especially with what they did against Arizona?
Well, so 37-3 overall. I mean, that is staggering in and of itself. They had 29 double-digit wins this season, and all five straight double-digit wins in the tournament. That is absolutely crushing teams. And I'll tell you what, Scotty, what got my attention was the holiday tournament when they faced Gonzaga, and they beat Gonzaga by – I had to rub my eyes a couple of times because I've seen Gonzaga do that to plenty of teams. But they beat Gonzaga by 40. And I was like, man – something's going on there. I've had the opportunity to know Dusty May since we were both young coaches, and actually hung out at the Final Four with him a few times. He was actually on Kerry Rupp's staff at Louisiana Tech with Cody Feger. And so, it's funny, man. You get into college coaching, and it's like that Kevin Bacon deal. You're not very many layers removed. But happy for him. First tournament team, or first championship team to ever win it with starting five transfers. I think that's the sign of things to come. And then the other piece, which really I think stamps it, Scotty, is they had the number one strength of schedule and the number one power rating. And so I think they were hiding in plain sight as champions the whole year.
Wait a minute. Whoa. So Dusty May was on a staff with Cody Fuger on Kerry Rupp's staff at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not know that. That's interesting.
And the funny thing is, Dusty, like Cody introduced me to him, and you first impressions, right? And I actually kind of value first impressions. I think they're important, but I also have been told by my wife that I take them a little too seriously and maybe a slight bit judgmental in my first go around. But honestly, when Dusty walked up, like my first instinct was, why is Cody hanging with that guy? I mean, just kind of seemed like a happy-go-lucky, dorky dude. And the funny thing is he is who he is. And through the years, got to know him, and he's just a guy that has picked up so much information along the way and been smart enough to write it down and have a plan. But yeah, man, it's crazy to think Dusty May, that dude, walked up to me in like the jeans and a T-shirt. I can't remember what city we were in at the Final Four, but we hung out for sure, and I'm really happy for him.
You know what's interesting too is when you look at Kerry Rupp, and I know this is like this is going down a rabbit hole. When Doug Gottlieb had to sit out that game, and I saw that Kerry Rupp was filling in as the head coach, I was like, there's where Kerry's at. He's hanging out with Doug Gottlieb in Green Bay of all places. So yeah, that guy's put together quite a resume.
Yeah, I first met Kerry when I was frantically running around East High School my first day on the job with Rick Majerus. And I'd never been to East High School in my life. Kerry was the coach. He was not real helpful at the time because the coach had his ear. And coach was like, we walked into the gym. He's like, where's all the chairs? Like I was supposed to know. And I was literally on a rampage running through the halls at East to find enough chairs for Majerus' pals to watch practice.
Wow. All right, so the way that Dusty built that team, it's a transfer portal super team. They were big, they were strong, they were athletic. They didn't shoot the three ball well last night, but overall in the season, they were a good three-point shooting team. What do you take from that what do you take from that other coaches are going to probably try to steal? Is there anything that they could replicate and take, and maybe that's a trend we see going forward?
I think what Dusty really did, I think last year a lot of people hit the market with an open checkbook and really got enamored by simply, the physical tools and the skill and the size. But what I think Dusty did, and I think what more teams will try to replicate, is to literally put a roster together that's cohesive. He did a great job of almost the one man's trash is another man's treasure when you look across that roster. And certainly guys that had played at a high level, but more importantly, I think he picked high character dudes that could give a little of themselves to the group. So I think it's going to be far more than, we saw Kentucky last year go put together a team that was talked about in the summertime, like, look, it was going to be a Lamborghini. And, and I think a lot of thought went into just the skill side and the imposing physical side, but there's so much more to building the team. And so I think that's more than anything in the era of a new team every year. That's one component coaches are going to really try to figure out how to put a team together that's more cohesive.
So how do you, when you're working through the transfer portal, how do you identify putting together pieces that will be cohesive together? Is that, I can't imagine that's easy to do on the fly.
No, it's not easy, but I think you have to get, like anything, like when you're doing research for a project or you're doing a market study to perhaps drop a new product. You got to get around the person and you got to get around the people that know the person, and you've got to be able to dig in. So if that's their a teammate that you can get on the phone, or an assistant coach that doesn't have an agenda, a high school coach. You want to try to avoid too much, propaganda from people too close. So you got to find people who tell you the truth. But honestly, coaches really do a good job for the most part of passing along, their experience to the next coach, because I think altruistically, the kid is really, they're the one trying to navigate the stream, and the way that the world works now is one leaves and another one comes. So I think the more you can be amenable to that and actually give some positive information. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not something you can Google. I think sometimes reading mindset and heart is really the differentiator between teams that can figure it out and teams that really struggle.
So now that the tournament's in the rearview mirror, we've seen, BYU got in, they lost. Utah State was able to win a game before they got bounced in the tournament. What can you take from the local teams, BYU and Utah State, in their hopes of trying to have a little bit more success in the tournament next year?
Well, the cool part for both is, in BYU's case, I think KY's got a plan in place, and it seems to be really working well. To be able to flip BYU from what it has always been to, be able to go attract one or two of the high-level guys every year and be able to compensate them as such. And so for them now, it's just going to be figuring out how to work around that player and build a team, again, a cohesive team that will play together. That doesn't overlap. That's another piece. You can never have enough shooting, but there's other things that perhaps overlap that at the end of the day, it may be better for team cohesion to take maybe less of something and really lean into certain guys. So I think BYU's got a blueprint, a plan. They're well funded, and I think BYU's thing can just continue to march on as they tweak. I have all the respect in the world for Kevin Young. I think to come in and do what he's done in 2 years, the proof's in the pudding. 2 years, 2 really good years in the Big 12, 2 tournaments. Last year a Sweet 16, so he's off to a good start. And then at Utah State, man, it's been done, and it's been done. The thing that's encouraging is been done by so many guys, and you can attest to how different each and every guy is, in the way that they approach things. So it's not a tried and true way in Logan. I honestly believe there's something really special about the community and the way they support. And you can get on a roll up there. So what I think they've done is actually laid the groundwork now for a guy who can be there for several years, as long as Ben wants to be. I think he could be there. And then instead of having to go out and then be at the mercy, perhaps you get on a little trail here where you hire one of his guys. And I do know in talking to him back in the day, and then, knowing around, he's very close to TJ Otzelberger. He's very close, to that family and the Missouri Valley people. And so I think that he's a guy who can build something, but also set something up for the future, like he did at Northern Iowa. And I think that's really the neat part about this hire for Utah State.
Mason Falslev, Carson Templin back at Utah State. They make those announcements, Carson over the weekend and Mason Falslev yesterday. Just to have the continuity of 2 of your best players from last year's team returning, how important is that to kick that off the Ben Jacobson era?
Well, how many fist pumps did you do, first of all, when you heard that?
I got a good 3 Tiger Woods fist bumps in, yeah.
Good. Were they all straight, or did they wobble?
No, it was a downward motion. Yeah, yep.
Okay, perfect. Not because right now he'd deviate perhaps in what.
Yeah, a little bit. I know. Yeah, no. This is sober Tiger fist pump. Yeah.
In fact, I heard it. I'm going to tell you a funny one I heard this week. Was the difference between a golf ball and a Range Rover?
What?
Tiger Woods can drive a ball 300 yards without hitting a tree. Okay. No. So
Lloyd, is that a car? Well, no, never mind. That's okay. That may not be the best sound effect to play right there.
And honestly, not making light of of what he did, but certain point. Come on, man, let's go.
Yeah, I know. Come on, figure it out.
But I forgot even the question you asked me because I was so into my joke.
Mason and Carson back for another final year.
Yeah, and I've got two nicknames for them: the Madman and the Mayor.
Yeah,
and I think the Madman and the Mayor are back. I just love when Templin gets those crazy eyes and his hair's kind of standing up with static.
Yep.
And Mason, to get him back is just so big for Ben to be able to have that juice. I mean, Mason was, I know this for a fact, I had tons of people calling me. Mason was a wanted man. And so for them to be able to lock him down speaks volumes for the AD up there, I think, first and foremost, to understand what's going on, be on top of it. And then, I liked Ben when in his presser, he just said, I want to hang with these guys. He made it pretty clear early on that he wanted to make sure that there was a relationship and that before a decision had to be made.
Mason was recruited by Tim Duryea and Craig Smith, ended up signing with Larry Kraskowiak, and I think Rylan and Chris Jones probably had a lot to do with that as well. Larry gets let go. So then he comes back off his mission, signs with Utah State and Ryan Odom, red shirts with Odom, plays with Sprinkle, 2 years with Calhoun, and now will finish his career with Ben Jacobson. Just how hard is that on a player?
Well, most players, it would be really hard, but and you know this kid well, and I know him well. I just think nothing phases this guy. Like he's old school tough. He's like ranch hand tough. And I think obviously he's affected by things, but perfect example, I came up to call a game with you this year, the Fresno game, and I think it might have been one of his tougher games all year long. And we were walking out, and I said, "Man, how you doing?" And he's, I was horrible at night, I'll tell you that much. I mean, he just flat out said it, where other guys would maybe be fishing for you to tell them they weren't so bad. And I just love his way. And so for Ben to hit the ground with a guy like that, who's been through all that and still wants to be there, man, that shows a ton of grit, resolve, and it should pay dividends for next year.
But also, and I said this about A.J. DeBonsa at BYU, like A.J. chose BYU. Make no mistake, he liked what he saw, and he chose BYU. But that decision is never made if BYU isn't in the same stratosphere when it comes to financial resources. So while he did choose BYU, BYU's not in the conversation if they're not at least competing financially. Same thing with Mason Falslev. Look, I guarantee Mason left money on the table to stay at Utah State. But I don't know if he left a ton of money on the table because Utah State was committed, and they've got some donors up there that said, hey, we need to run this thing back. And I think that says a lot about the commitment Utah State's made.
Yeah, and honestly, that's the part that I'm most impressed with, and it's why they keep winning. People ask why. I mean, there's a reason that schools get on a hot streak and roll, and most of it has to do with the permanent fixtures there. We give a ton of credit to coaches that come and go, and every coach has certainly played a major factor. But there is something magic about that valley when it comes to basketball, and I can say that because I had the great experience and awful experience at the same time to go up there and compete and try to take a game from there. And you feel it. It means something to people, and you go into a supermarket and you have the wrong shirt on, and they're going to tell you about it too. So it's one of the hidden gems, honestly, in college basketball, and it's why I had probably over a 3-week period, probably had 15 phone calls from coaches across the country of all levels asking me what's going to happen in Logan.
If you are looking at, if you're Kevin Young, and not necessarily players, but skill sets, knowing the 5-star freshman coming in next year, what are you trying to build in terms of skill set for next year's team?
I think, what BYU's done in a quick hurry is really acclimated to some good positional size. And I think that in the Big 12, I think you got to have that. I think they could have shot the ball better this year. I think their three-point shooting was planning. They planned to have Dawson Baker, who's a clutch three-point shot maker, and certainly Richie Saunders was part of the plan. And so as options fell off the table, I think that's one thing you're learning. You can never have enough shooting. And it's why a guy like Trevin Nell for years, found a way onto the court and got better defensively each and every year, but they needed him out there because he was so deadly shooting the ball. And so I think BYU will probably lean into that, the way the three-point shot is used, except for last night, 11 for 48. In college basketball, it's certainly a big piece of how you can separate yourself. And then I think from there, I think they've done just a great job. I think they've got physical guys. I think Cave has been great at the 5. Maybe a more serviceable offensive big that you can count on to get baskets. I mean, last night Michigan basically won that game in the paint.
Yeah,
scored 36 points in the paint, and UConn did a nice job of keeping the game closer because of the offensive rebounds. They were quick, and Michigan's big. With UConn beat into some balls, and they actually took more shots than Michigan did last night. So at the end of the day, though, it was size that ruled today, and I think that's what BYU will continue to do, is lean into positional size that has skill and can shoot.
The one thing that's really hard, and I feel for Alex Jensen, and you know Alex really well, and I've gotten to know him really well over the last few years, is that once you kind of get stuck in the cycle in this day and age of college basketball, it's tough to pull yourself out of, because if you don't have a great year, then you're going to lose a lot of guys in the portal, and then you've got to rebuild a team over and over and over again until you start winning, and then you're able to hold on to guys a little bit better. But it's tough to get out of that cycle if you're where you're at, where Utah's at in their college basketball program right now.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's kind of like when I was talking about Logan. Since Majerus left, really, we were there. I was there with Ray Giacoletti right afterwards, and the whole crowd thing started to kind of become an issue then, and it's just dwindled over time. And again, I think for a long time they didn't even have to think about basketball. There wasn't a ton of resources allocated. They sold out, the Huntsman Center, and things were great. But they've got a huge issue right now, and it's far less to do with the coaches. I think there needs to be a long look. I think the president needs to take a long look at the decay of the athletic department over the last few years, and it is certainly, football's withstood it because that's where a lot of the money's going and a bunch of the booster interest. And certainly gymnastics and skiing are always going to be good. But from there on out, I have a hard time recognizing Utah athletics from, when it was so important in my life. So I think there has to be some major changes taken, before Alex can even really have a huge impact. There has to be some serious talks about, are we going to really try to change things? Or are we just going to sit here and act as though we are, and continue to fire coaches and say it's their fault?
Yeah, because I know Larry Kraskowiak's a great coach. I know Craig Smith's a great coach. I know Alex Jensen's a great coach. If none of those three cannot make it work consistently at Utah, it's not a coaching problem.
Yeah, you're 100% right. So the irony is the thing that makes Utah State constantly competitive and in the game is kind of what's holding Utah out of it. I think it's just it's the hustle factor. I've said this before, but I watch stuff closely, social media and how teams market. I was blown away after I went from Utah to BYU in terms of the effort given to get people to games and have them have a good time when they're there. I was there when they put in the Institute of the Sheet Drop. And our good friend Barrett Perry was at Utah, and he said when he saw that sheet drop, because we did it at Utah the first time against Utah at our place, and he said when I saw that sheet drop, I went and wanted to tell Boylan, let's just pack this thing's over. We got no chance. But again, the only sheet dropping at Utah is the curtains covering seats. They've got to find a way to do their job. That's what the job of an athletic department is.
Hey, Coach, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. Let's talk again here very soon. Thanks for your time.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, and you have a wonderful Tuesday.
Yeah, you too. There he is. Tim LaComb right here on The Zone.
This is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will, the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/FUTURE.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Remember, check out University of Utah Health. Go to uofuhealth.org for more information. It is a Jazz Ticket Tuesday, which means we're giving away Jazz tickets. Caller number 12 right now. It's really simple, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE, and you'll win a pair of tickets to see the Jazz and the Grizzlies, the final home game of the season. Coming up on April 10th, 7:30. If you want those tickets, be caller number 12. Again, 801-575-ZONE. All right, let's not waste any time. Let's go get us some pimento cheese sandwich and hang out with Brian Taylor.
This 2026 Masters Update live from Augusta is brought to you by Copper Rock, where the pros play on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
D, you never get tired of this trip, do you?
No. I guess I suppose if I do, that I shouldn't come anymore because it's that special, right? So,
yeah. I know every time you do a good job of not like rubbing our noses in it, but if I were you, I would be flexing every time I walk on that golf course because that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's I don't know. Over the years, I've just gained such an appreciation. I think back on those first years that Bob and his family brought me out here and had a chance to just hang out with Billy Casper. We weren't even media credentialed, and they had, Billy had me be his caddy just to get me in the doors. And so I would just hang out with the fam, and we would sit under the umbrellas out behind the clubhouse and have lunch, and his whole family was there, grandkids and kids. I mean, just this whole scene, right? And just seeing the love that all of the patrons gave to Billy as a past champion. It was a neat thing because this obviously Billy won 2 U.S. Opens, right, and loves the U.S. Open and at iconic golf courses, at Olympic Club and Winged Foot. But the way that the Masters and Augusta National honors their past champions, it's just you could just tell that it was such a great feeling of appreciation and success that he enjoyed when he came back here every year. And it's just one little, actually it's a big part, but it's a part of what the experience is out here. And so as I've gotten older, I just appreciate it. That's the biggest thing. I'm just appreciative.
Well, there's no doubt. And it's such a cool course, but you've played it. I know they have the media lottery, so I know you've been able to play it. You've obviously caddied. How difficult is it to walk that course? Like just from a physically taxing standpoint, there's courses out here. I live by Bountiful Ridge, and you'll never catch me walking that course. So just from a up and down and wear and tear on the body, what's that course like?
Yeah, I can tell you, I played, I was 5 years younger when I caddied than I was when I played, and it was a lot easier to walk 5 years older than it was to carry that bag. So
I bet.
It was. I remember it was when Billy played and I caddied. It was a rainy. We started on the second nine because of the rain delay. They went split tees, which is unusual. Maybe only one other time I can remember them doing that. And so our 17th hole was 8, and I'll tell you what, that climb up 8 is it's significant. You don't realize how uphill that is from the tee. You kind of go down, and then there's a crosswalk, and then you start back up, and it was. I remember feeling like, okay, I'm not in as good a shape as I thought I was for a 30-year-old. But yeah, it's it is a good walk, and that was one of the things that we'd always talk about with Tiger. It's like it's not that Tiger can't swing; it's that Tiger couldn't walk, and right, especially around this place. And he always wanted to be here, but this one represents probably the most difficult, not only from a walk standpoint, but just the lie, the stance. There's really no flat part on this golf course, and so you're always, in some sort of, you have to tweak your body in some manner. And for guys like him, I mean, for him, because it's pretty unique for, with his injuries, it's difficult. It's a difficult physical challenge out here.
Had the events of last week not happened, would you have anticipated Tiger playing this week?
I think he was going to give it a go. I didn't have any expectations, but I did sound like he was going to give it a go. I don't know. I mean, I heard somebody say he's the king of comebacks, and that's true, right? But man, that would be something if he could, just felt like he was in such a tough spot physically. I didn't know how he was going to do it, but we've always marveled at Tiger and what he can and can't do out here.
Yeah. How much is he on people's minds out there right now, considering some of the struggles he's going through?
The question's been asked a lot of the players in media interviews today, and most of them have just offered their love and support, as contemporaries. But most of them have kind of said, this is probably not, the time to really sit and talk through it. We're all kind of focused on this and it being the first major, but, we all wish him the best and hope he's able to come back. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been the sentiment, as you would expect. I mean, what are you really going to say, right?
Exactly.
So it's, nobody likes to see that. I mean, the body cam videos it's just, it's obviously, it's got to be embarrassing to him. It's, all of the things, but hope, again, like we talked about last week as it was kind of going down, it's just, you just hope that he gets himself right so that, not only from a golf, put golf aside, just from a life standpoint, that he can, have a future.
All right. On a much lighter note, Lloyd and I got into an argument yesterday because he is all about Jason Day's wardrobe. I think that's horrible. Where do you stand on Jason Day?
Well, I mean, of course they, put out the video or the picture of him and looked like what was that, like your Easter morning PJs onesie or something?
Yep.
Wasn't sure what he was doing with that. Yeah. But I don't think I'm going to see him showing up to, I mean, Augusta's. I haven't seen him yet. Did he actually wear it on the course? Have you seen him on the course, or just
unless that was a good
photo?
Unless that was a good AI photo, it looked like he was wearing it out there. But again, I can't trust anything I see online these days.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen him in person this week. I just saw that photo of it, kind of the promo photo, and the bird suit or whatever, right? And I was like, now let me say this: when Jason started wearing the Malvin gear, I was just like, what are we doing here? I can't handle my eye on this stuff. I'll admit, I'm pretty down on the Mammoth stuff. I bought 3 or 4 shirts.
Wow.
They are of the conservative variety, I would say, given the Malvin stuff. And here's the thing, right? These guys, I watched the story on them, and these guys are designers, and designers are eccentric. And so they are looking for a little bit of, shock and awe, if you will. They're looking a little change it up, to get people's attention, trying to break norms and all of those types of things. So I don't think that I wouldn't think they're trying to sell that outfit to the majority of the golf masses, but I think it's just hey, take notice, and then people are going to their website saying, what is this all about? And then, oh, by the way, that shirt looks pretty cool. So that's got to be something along those lines. But good for him. I mean, you got to have some confidence to do that.
Hey, you know what? And if the check's clear, you wear whatever anybody wants you to wear. That's all that really matters.
It's kind of like the locker room walk, right? For the NBA guys. This is sort of during practice rounds. This is their locker room walk.
Yeah. Hey, is there any changes or alterations to the course this year?
A little bit of length on 17 is really it. Everything else is pretty much the same golf course wise.
I know this goes without saying. Is Scotty still everybody's guy going into this thing in terms of favorites?
You know what? He comes up here in his interview in half an hour, and I'm excited to go in and listen to him because I'll be honest with you, for being the world number one, he is probably coming in with the least amount of fanfare that he has experienced since, he kind of burst onto the scene a few years ago. And I think he loves that, by the way, which, we hardly talked about Scotty. And yet, look, he's been off for a couple weeks. They just had a new baby. He's battled poor first round starts a few weeks in a row. But let's not forget, he started out blitzing the field at the American Express in the desert. I mean, we're talking about like wire-to-wire domination, like in 30 under, whatever. And so when you see that he's capable of doing that, knowing how good he is in difficult situations. I mean, he's still second in scoring average. He's first in birdie average. He's second in putting average. He's 10th in greens in regulation. He's still the number one player in the world. I mean, he's got a win, a third, a fourth, a 12th, and 2 more top 25 so far on the season. And we're all talking about what's wrong with Scotty Scheffler. I mean, if anybody else had that resume coming in here, we'd be like, wow, this guy is the can't miss pick this week. And so I like to look at numbers. I like to look at trends. And you say, okay, look, he's played in 6 Masters. He won in 2022. He won in 2024. It's now 2026. Maybe he gets that every other year thing going. And incidentally, if he were to go on and win, it would be the fewest starts to 3 wins. Tiger, Jack, and Arnold Palmer all did it in their 8th attempt. So this would be a pretty historic thing if Scotty was able to go out and pick up a 3rd green jacket this week.
So you got the Masters dinner coming up tonight. I do not know what the menu is, but I love this quote from Rory McIlroy. Was asked about what was on the menu, and he said, people keep asking why I didn't go more Irish. I said, because I want to enjoy the meal as well. So I don't see a lot of Irish food apparently on the menu tonight because even Rory's not a fan.
Yeah, look, Scotty, I think, by the way, that was the biggest laughter all day in the media center or the interview room. But look, this menu is top notch. Maybe one of the best that I can remember. I mean, we're talking about,
let's go.
peach and ricotta flatbread. Okay. Just think of that for a minute. Like, that sounds unbelievable. Okay. That's an appetizer. And then they've got some elk sliders, not really my thing, but then he's got these bacon-wrapped dates with goat cheese and some other stuff. Now, people are getting hung up on that. I got a different take on it, Scotty. Think about it. Dates are sweet. Yep. Then you got the bacon and the goat cheese. So if you've ever had a burger with bacon jam, you're basically making the bacon jam in your mouth while you eat that appetizer, right? I'll bet that's unbelievable.
I'm 1,000% on board with that. Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Because some people will say they kind of look sideways at that whole idea. Then he's got a salmon. He's got a vegetarian, I think, and then he's got this this Wagyu filet that looks amazing. And then all the trimmings, right? The Brussels and the whole thing. It sounds amazing. And then you add in for dessert sticky toffee pudding. Now, I don't know if you've ever had sticky toffee pudding. That's not really a thing we did in Cassia County growing up. But when I was in Scotland last year, every little restaurant, little like mom and pop restaurant we went to, desserts weren't really the thing over there. I mean, we're way more hooked on sugar over here in America than they are in Europe. But they had this sticky toffee pudding. I'm like, okay, tell me, what is this sticky toffee pudding? They're like, oh, it's homemade. It's lovely. You'd love it. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. It was incredible. It was the only thing I could even say that was worth eating when I was over there as far as the sweets go. And so, I'm high on this one. I'll bet this would be a heck of a dinner. Hats off to Rory. That'll be a good one.
Nice. Well, hey, BT, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy your time out there, as I know you will. We look forward to catching up with you throughout the week. Do a tremendous job, as always. Tell Bob hi, and we'll chat again here very soon.
You got it. And I'm going to send you and Lloyd a recipe for sticky toffee pudding, and you guys can knock yourselves out.
I will. You know what? If you do that, send it over now. I will have that made by the end of the week.
Yes,
for
please.
Sure. Okay. All right. I'll get it sent over to you.
There he is. Brian Taylor, Real Golf Radio, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, what you may have missed coming up next, including some contract details on Mike Malone, the new head coach at North Carolina. Not only did North Carolina shock everybody by hiring Mike Malone, they may have shocked everybody by what they're paying Mike Malone. Yeesh. We'll talk about that next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is one of those topics that no one really wants to think about, but if you're a parent, a homeowner, married, or helping take care of aging parents, it's something that honestly deserves a little attention. I'm talking about estate planning. And before you tune out thinking it's complicated or expensive, that's actually why I want to mention Trust and Will. Trust and Will makes estate planning feel way less intimidating than it sounds. They offer modern, attorney-designed wills and trusts that you can create online. And the process is surprisingly straightforward. In fact, you can create a will in as little as 30 minutes. That includes things like guardianship for your kids or pets, how your assets are distributed, and even healthcare directives. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your loved ones with Trust and Will. the most trusted name in online estate planning. Go to trustandwill.com/future to get 20% off. That's trustandwill.com/future for 20% off. trustandwill.com/FUTURE.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Mike Malone is now officially the head coach at North Carolina. And how about this, Lloyd? He is now the second highest paid coach in all of college basketball. A 6-year contract, so not even a 5-year contract. 6-year contract that will pay him $8.3 million per year. That is second only to Kansas Bill Self in terms of payment per year. So Mike Malone may have won himself an NBA title. He did that with Jokic and then got fired and is now transitioned nicely into North Carolina where...
But he's a proven winner at the college level, right?
Oh, yeah. Nope. That, he's never done that before. So, yeah, I'm sure that will be just an easy, seamless transition for him going to the college game. People don't... Look, there's a lot of people that just naturally assume you can go from the NBA to college and you'll be fine. That is not the case. Ask Alex Jensen. Ask Kevin Young. These guys got, and it's not like they didn't know that it was going to be difficult, but it is a much different, much more difficult game to coach. And college kids are much harder to coach than NBA guys simply because it takes a while for them to figure out what you need to do. NBA guys have been around for a long time. They can adapt. They know the system. They got a high basketball IQ. Sometimes that's not the strong suit with a lot of college kids. So you got to coach a lot harder. You have to coach every single solitary possession. Just because you went over a couple things in shoot around doesn't mean the guys are going to remember that. When an 18-year-old gets an inbound with 15 seconds left and doesn't know he needs to hold the ball and take the foul instead of trying to get a pass that gets intercepted, and then you give up a three-point shot and lose the game in the right to go to the Final Four. So, yeah, it's a little bit different. It's a bit of an uglier situation. It's an uglier game, and it takes a different kind of coach. So just don't assume that it's going to be all roses for North Carolina. In fact, I give it 3 years. Because it's a 6-year contract, they'll let him coach 3 years. But I think he'll be fired after 3. Lloyd, if I go over under 3 years, where are you going on that? In fact, I'll go 2.5 years. I think Lloyd's on the phone. Matt, what do you think?
Go with the question again. Sorry, a little distracted.
Mike Malone, head coach at North Carolina.
Yes.
Fired over under 2.5 years.
Oh, under.
Under. I think you're right.
Yeah.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, hour number 2 of the program. Always great to catch up every Tuesday with Kurt Helin, NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com. Hey, Kurt, only 3 games left for the Utah Jazz. Losers of 9 in a row. They want to go in with a 12-game losing skid to try to ensure that Oklahoma City stays away from that draft pick. But the long, long season is about to come here in Salt Lake City, and people are pretty fired up.
I would, yeah, exactly. I think that the fan base should be, because you're going to be adding a draft pick wherever it lands to what is a really nice core already with JJ coming in, getting Lauri Markkanen back, the way Keontae George has made a leap. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic, even if you have to suffer through 140 whatever minutes left of maybe not the best basketball ever. The light at the end of the tunnel isn't an oncoming train this time. There's real reason for optimism, because this is going to be a much better and far more entertaining team next year. Whatever they end up shaking out like, it's going to be quality basketball.
So when you look at this Jazz team, at what point in the draft would you start drafting for position? Is it after 5, after 6? Let's say they end up with the 8th overall pick. Is there a certain level where it's like, okay, we're not just taking best player available anymore, we're going to start drafting by position? Or does that not even come into the equation at all?
It does a little bit. I will say most teams kind of operate on a tier system. So they will say, and I'll just use the top 3 guys as a hypothetical. If you say you have A.J. Debonsa and Cameron Boozer and Peterson all in the same tier, which I don't think most teams do. But hypothetically, if you've got them all in the same tier, then you're like, well, all right, what position helps us more? Where does this guy fit better? Which one of them fits better with our system? And where the Jazz most likely land in that, 5 through 8, wherever that lands, that's just a bunch of good point guards. And it becomes about, do you just like one of them more on the board? Do you end up liking Fleming more than Brown, or if you've kind of got them all equal, then you're going for a position, or is there somebody else out there that you think is sneaky better, should be in that spot? So I think look, at the end of the day, what you don't want to do is go, man, we don't need Luka Doncic. We got De'Aaron Fox. We're good. Like you make those, the whole MJ and Sam Bowie thing with Clyde Drexler. Like, don't do that. Take the best player on the board. But if it comes down to like, I got these guys really close, then you start to think about position and fit a little more. So it kind of depends on how their board shakes out.
Has AJ separated himself from everybody else at number one?
On most boards, and I don't have a ton of. I haven't talked to every team by any stretch, but I will say most teams have him number one now, because the concern with Boozer is just athleticism, and look, he's going to be good. He has the highest floor of any of these guys. He's going to be a very good player in the NBA, but there's concerns about his athleticism and how he's going to, how that's going to work at the next level. And then obviously with Peterson and the health issues. And so DeBonta has just separated himself and like, hey man, like the ceiling for this guy is through the roof. And I trust him a little more than Peterson, but not every team is there. There's still some real Peterson fans out there. And I've read from other reports that there's other teams that would like, man, and kind of how safe does a GM feel in his job? Is he willing to take the risk, or is he like, Boozer's not going to be bad. I won't mess up Boozer. And again, you could try to argue, I don't know that it works in Utah, but like you could really argue that putting Boozer in the mix in that front line with Markin and Jaren Jackson Jr. and I'm going blank on center suddenly.
Kessler.
Thank you. I could not come up with Kessler. But if you put him in that mix, like instantly going to help you and put you in a position, even if he doesn't start, you get a lot more Dylan Harper in San Antonio, where I still think Dylan Harper might be the second best guy in this class 2-3 years from now, but he doesn't have to play. He's not even going to make the top. He's not going to be top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting. He's just not getting the run this year because they don't need him to.
All right. Speaking of Rookie of the Year, I know you're a voter, so I will ask you at the end of this, because I want to persuade you and other voters. Cooper Flagg is going to have a remarkable career. He will be a perennial all-star. He'll have multiple MVPs. He'll probably win a title or two along the way. He's going to be great. He's going to be fantastic. He'll be considered one of the best players in the league at any given moment. Let Con have this one. Let Con Knipple have this. Cooper's going to get everything else. Give Con the Rookie of the Year.
Well, you didn't really have to convince me. I already had Con number one.
Okay, good.
Just for because at the end of the day, for me, and I know that there's other people who are like try to look. I don't want to be the guy like, well, I wonder what this guy will be like in 5 years. I'm not a scout. I don't know that. I do agree with you. Look, I think Cooper is going to be the best player in this class 5 years from now, and you've kind of seen it lately, like the 50-point game the other night and stuff. Like, he's going to be a monster. And Dallas lucked out and can build around him. But Con's been better this year, and in two key ways for me. Well, A, minutes played and games played. He's just played a bunch more. But B, he's more efficient as a scorer. He's just so efficient. And I think Flagg's efficiency will improve, but Con walked in the door doing this. And most important to me, when you're getting in this tight situation with Rookie of the Year, Con is playing meaningful minutes for a team going to the postseason. Like, these games matter to them. They are playing really well. They have a legit chance to actually maybe even climb out of the play-in still, although that's a little bit of a longer shot, but be a top 8 seed and make the playoffs. And man, I want to see them in the playoffs. I want to see them they would make Detroit or Boston work for it in the first round. So,
yeah.
But he's played in these meaningful minutes, and that matters. That he has stepped up in those kind of things absolutely is key for me. So yeah, I've got Con 1, Flag 2, and VJ Edgecombe 3rd, and Dylan Harper is a lock, my other lock for first team All NBA, and then All Rookie. And then honestly, I've got to sit down with them later this week and kind of parse out exactly where Ace and the other rookies I've got on that list fit in terms of All Rookie team.
So watching Denver and that great game against San Antonio, and then the crazy rally last night, is Denver playing their best basketball going into the playoffs?
Yeah, and I mean, we've had this conversation all season, Scotty, haven't we? Been like,
yeah.
If they get healthy, when they get right, watch out for this team. They're really dangerous. Well, they got right, and they're healthy. I mean, Peyton Watson was out the other night, but they are peaking at the right time. And you saw in this game where they, came back, forced overtime, beat the Spurs. They're a legitimate threat to win it all. And it really puts a little more pressure on OKC, who's got what's left of the Lakers tonight and a couple other games that they want to win, because you don't want to be the 2-3 seed. That 2-3 battle in the West, not that, if you're 1-4, you're going to get probably Minnesota or Houston in the second round, and that's not a cakewalk, but man, I don't want Denver. I don't want Denver or San Antonio in that second round. You need to. That is 2 of the 3 best teams in the league playing in the second round, and it's going to be hard.
Kurt Helin, NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com, kind enough to join us here on the Zone for his weekly conversation. I think both sides tried to be as diplomatic as they possibly could, but we were always scorching towards an ugly ending in Milwaukee, and it certainly appears that this offseason, I know everybody tried to take the high road. They wanted the kids to be happy. Mom and dad weren't getting along, but they were trying to put on a good face. There's just no way this thing's going to end well.
No, it's not. And without going too far down the rabbit hole here, because I don't, I'm not Shams. I don't have the sources he has. I don't know who he spoke to. And first off, it's not really a secret around the league that they've been pushing a little bit to get out, without Giannis wanting to say, I want out publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And he just didn't want to be that guy. And it was ownership that said, we get a better deal this summer. Let's sit on this. But it's now what's coming out. And again, this is largely, I think, fueled by the agent and Giannis's camp. It's over. It's done. They want out. They're going to go wherever they end up landing this summer, but it's going to be messy. And it's just time. It frankly was probably time a year or two ago, but they kept trying to stretch this out because if you're Milwaukee, I mean, when was the last time they had Kareem and then they had Giannis? Like, that's a pretty big gap in time. So you don't want to just throw that away because you don't know when you're going to get the next guy like that. So I kind of get where they were, but they may have hurt themselves and backed themselves. They backed themselves into a little bit of a corner because he's only got one, assuming he opts in, he's got 1 year left on that contract, or opts out, I mean. Well, now he's got a ton of leverage about where he goes, and you will not get the return you'd wanted to if you'd done this a summer ago.
Yeah, see, that's my thought, is that if you're Milwaukee, you kind of had a feeling where this was going. And even in this season, in the right before trade deadline, if you thought, well, we'll get more in the offseason, well, you roll the dice, and now the word's out that he wants out, and you're going to get pennies on the dollar. The one thing that the Jazz did a really good job with Donovan Mitchell, they knew Donovan wanted out, and they're like, okay, we're going to facilitate this, but you got to allow us to get the most out. Keep your mouth shut. We'll keep our mouth shut, and we'll get something done. But the more you talk, the less options we have. So just be cool, and we'll get this thing done. And that's what they did, and the Jazz were able to get a nice haul for him.
Exactly. And if you can keep those things amicable as relatively as they're going to be, then two things happen. A, like you said, you just get more back, right? And Cleveland was not on the top of Donovan's list, but then you go and, hey, man, you're going to go to a team where you can help them contend. That really hasn't panned out exactly like they hoped yet. But, by the way, they've still got a real path. Donovan if they finish fourth, they've got a real path to the Eastern Conference Finals. But you're going to go to this better team, and it might not have been a team on his list, but you can sell him on the opportunity. Where now, like you said, this is bad with Giannis, and he's going to really dictate whether it's New York or Miami or whatever. But it's going to be much harder to pull in the unexpected team with the larger offer at this point. I just don't know where. I don't know where that's going to come from that he's going to agree to, because now he's got a lot of leverage in this situation, and he's not exactly inclined to be nice to them at this point.
Nope, no, sir. I know you've got an MVP vote. Is it still Shea, or is Wemby creeping up? How do you have those guys?
I got Bronny first, Bronny James, and then no.
That's why I would love you, Kurt.
Yeah, I have Shea 1, Wemby 2, probably Jokic 3 now with Luka missing a little time. I had that flipped, but I'll probably flip them back. And we'll see if Luka's even on the board. I got a feeling he's going to get granted this exceptional situation whatever the term is, for allowing him to stay in the mix with 64 games, just because if the league is going to say, I'm sorry you went to be with the birth of your child, that's not good enough. That's a bad – there's bad PR coming with that one. So I think he gets in, and then in that case he ends up probably fourth on my ballot. He probably finishes fourth or fifth, and Jalen's in the mix. If he leaves, honestly, now it comes back to your boy Donovan Mitchell or Kawhi for that fifth spot, which would be interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Kurt Helin joining us, NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com. You and I think we've compared Detroit a lot to the Jazz a few years ago when they were the number 1 seed, but nobody really took them seriously as an NBA potential champion. We kind of look at the Pistons the same way, but if Cunningham comes back and he's relatively healthy, do you up the odds on them quite a bit?
A little bit, in the sense that I just trust their defense so much. They have been so – look, they've gone – well, I think it's 8-3 now, but 8-2 with him in the games that mattered. They lost the other night, but they've now locked up the number 1 seed. So at that point, anything that happens, I don't take too seriously. I think their defense can get them through for a while, but I still think at the end of the day, not having a high-level second shot creator could be an issue. I guess the question becomes – and Dennis Jenkins has been really good. Is he suddenly capable of being that guy, and we just didn't expect it? We were like, they need to go get that second shot creator. Maybe they had it on the roster, and they didn't know it. We didn't know it, and now they do. It's interesting in an East where, the second round matchup, I think there's a kind of clear delineation in the East between as much as it's fun to fantasize about what Philadelphia could be or whatever. I think there's a pretty clear delineation between the top 4 and the rest of the conference. So if it's Cleveland and Detroit in the second round, and we're like, maybe Cleveland can get the upset there. Maybe not. Maybe Detroit's just too good for them. And I still think Boston, though, is it just me? Right now, it feels like Boston is, I don't know if it's head and shoulders, but head better than
I'm with you.
They're just better than everybody right now.
So Billy Donovan stays put in Chicago, and whether or not North Carolina went after him or not, it does appear that there's something going on there because he stays, and they clean house in the front office. Were those events related in some way, shape, or form?
A little bit, yeah. First off, do you like Mike Malone in UNC?
It is going to be a colossal dumpster fire that I cannot wait to watch. It's like Bill Belichick 2.0.
It very well could be. I'm curious. Here's the thing. My interactions with Mike Malone, my sense of him is he's going to enjoy the control, the ability to be a little dictator that you get as a college, you can be as a college coach. You have so much more control and say and power than you do as an NBA head coach, in terms of players, in terms of some, to a degree, in terms of stuff. But that man's a yeller. Yeah. And that's an in-your-face guy, and I am not sure how that's going to play out over time in college. It's going to be – I'm curious because his X's and O's are great. The question isn't can he coach, but can he coach college is Yeah, it has dumpster fire potential, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it might work too, but there's a couple things, and I'm just going by a couple local guys here. Kevin Young, who was with Phoenix, is now the coach at BYU, and they've had so much talent there that they've been successful. But even he's talked about how hard it was to adjust to the spacing of the game and how congested the college game is compared to the NBA. And then Alex Jensen, who obviously a long time with the Jazz, now with the University of Utah, said the same thing. I think NBA coaches have a hard time coming down and coaching this because they're used to the game being a lot more fluid, and there's a lot more sets and things that you have to install for college kids. Plus, and I mean this with nothing but love, college kids are kind of dumb and they do stupid things.
Oh yeah, no,
and you have to coach them nonstop.
As you know, I live, a golf shot away from the pyramid at Long Beach State, and I go to some games there just to have a beer and watch a game and just watch basketball as a fan and not have to stress about, whatever. And my wife keeps punching me in the arm because I keep thinking like out loud, I'm like, why did you, don't you see the open guy? Oh, okay. So there's going to be some of that. And also, I think the spacing thing is a really good salient point. I hadn't really thought about that. But you know what helps your spacing? Nikola Jokic. So it really improves your spacing considerably to have the best player on the planet. So that will help. As for the Bulls, by the way, to round back to the question, Donovan didn't want to tank. Ownership doesn't want to tank. They're kind of on the treadmill of mediocrity, stuck in the middle, where they keep winning 38 to 44 games and never getting very far in the. They're not good enough to go anywhere in the playoffs or even get out of the play-in half the time, but they're also not bad enough to have a high draft pick, so they're just kind of stuck in the middle. I don't know how. We'll see if a new GM can really change that dynamic. They've got some cap space this summer, but at the end of the day, they need a lot more talent, and if they're not going to tank and they're not going to get it through the draft and they're not going to go into the tax because the owner won't do that either. I'm not sure that it matters, but Donovan and ownership are on the same page, and the GM wanted to tank a little, and here we are.
And there you go. You got a couple of guys out of a job. Hey, Kurt, we appreciate it, man. Great stuff as always. Thanks for your time, and let's do it again here very soon.
I look forward to it. Take care, Scotty.
You got it. Kurt Helin, NBC Sports, ProBasketballTalk.com, one of the best dudes out there, covers the game as good as anybody else, and joins us every Tuesday right here on The Zone. All right, we are live at My Hearing Center. Matt's with us, and all right, so let's talk about the technology. One thing I love about mine, and look, my hearing aids are like, I want to say maybe 4 years old, but I've got the Bluetooth, so if I'm in the car and you got a lot of people talking and you would rather just focus on the road, you can run music through that. You can run your TV through them. If you're sitting in your ecclesiastical services and you're a little bored, you can pop on The Zone and listen to the latest podcast. Not that I would suggest that.
Well, you should listen to the latest podcast. Maybe not then.
Maybe not in that 2-hour block.
That's right.
We do have them in nice 25-minute chunks, though, so that might help out with the. Never mind. But when you've got opportunities out there to really not just hear better, but improve your overall quality of life with these things.
It really does become a big part of your life in terms of how you can use it. If technology is something you like to lean into, certainly it has the technology that you're talking about. It's got the longest lasting battery, the smallest Bluetooth availability. So we can make it work for you if that's what you're interested in. We've got an app that actually has an audiology assistant. If you're ever in a difficult situation where you're having a hard time picking up the understanding, you can tell the assistant, and it'll make adjustments on your hearing aid right there at ad hoc, and send those adjustments back to us. So when you come back into the office, we can fine tune what the AI did. So a lot of really cool things technologically. If you're like other patients that we have that have fear of technology, it can do the opposite. It can just be fully self-contained, make its adjustments on its own. You never have to touch it. You never have to worry about it. So anywhere from full access to limited adjustments, we can make it work for you. And that's what's really fun about the technology now, is that we can handcraft the experience specifically for the user.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you go with My Hearing Center, it's not that you're going to hand a couple of hearing aids to somebody and then boot them out the door and say, get out of here. I mean, the constant evaluation, the constant upgrading, the constant hey, let's fine tweak this, let's do this, because ultimately you want it to be successful because you want people to use them. You don't want people like, okay, this wasn't for me, and you pop them out and you leave them on the nightstand for a year or two.
No, in fact, we have a very liberal return policy. If you're not happy with your hearing aids within the trial period, you can bring them back at full refund. So when we charge for our services, we use hearing aids as the tool to get to the results. Right? It's not we're selling tools. We're trying to sell the service and everything else that comes with it. And the reality is, hearing loss is a little different than like your vision loss. Or vision loss, you put your eyeglasses on, you pretty much just boom, you're seeing better that quick. With hearing loss, we actually have to retrain the brain to understand and process the sounds that you haven't been hearing for years and years and years, and that can take time. And some people, they'll get it really quickly. 2 weeks into it, they got it, brain's adapted, they love the hearing aids. Other patients we've had to go up to 6 months before they're really full benefiting from the hearing aids. And all the follow-up that happens between those, the first fit all the way up to 6 months. And so wherever you lie, we're going to find a therapy plan that's going to work best for your needs.
I love this. 801-438-7058. So you come in, you get the hearing test absolutely free.
Yep. Free hearing test. At the end of the hearing test, if you have hearing loss, we'll let you try the hearing aids risk-free for 30 days. We use the information that we get back from the hearing aids to help other people and also to make things better for you. We've gotten really good at these ones now. So the BTCIX premium technology, want you to come and try it at the end of the 30-day risk-free trial. We also want to give you a gift card to get some movie tickets as well.
You even have hands-free calling capabilities in these things?
Yeah, we'll show you how.
Wow, that's no joke. 801-438-7058. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to saddle up and talk about the winners and the losers. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, here's the good.
It is your good, it is your bad, it is your ugly. Part of the good, we got another pair of tickets. It's the last home game of the season for the Utah Jazz. I got a pair of tickets right now, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. You'll win a pair of tickets, see the Jazz and Grizzlies. Again, final home game of the season on April 10th. Game will tip off at 7:30. You want those tickets? Be caller number 12 right now. Again, 801-575-ZONE. All right. Let's start with the good, as Lloyd's guy Fernando Mendoza making an announcement today. He is out of the draft. I mean, he's not going to the draft.
Finish it. Okay, thank you. Finish the news. He's not pulling his name out of the draft. He's not going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to the draft.
I think that he saw the Raiders and said, you know what? I'm going to try to get an extra year of eligibility, and we'll run it back. No, he's just not going to attend, which, either way, I respect this. Look, we all know he's going to go number one overall. We all know that he wants as limited face time with the Raiders as possible. So what better way than to just hang out at home, bring in the cameras, and he can hang out with his family in Miami and enjoy it at home. Says that he wants to enjoy this with his family instead of going to New York. Or excuse me, not New York. Where is the draft this year? In Pittsburgh.
Okay,
it's in Pittsburgh.
I should know this.
Yeah. I'm still stuck where it's in New York every year, but no, it's in Pittsburgh, which may be another reason why he didn't really want to go to the draft, because who really wants to go to Pittsburgh?
Well, word is he's already studying the Raiders playbook and he's ready to go. So I'm fine with him not going.
So play one, take the sack. Number two, throw an interception.
If you're Geno Smith, yes, that is your play right there. Take the sack. You only have like 2 or 3 seconds to react and hurry up and get rid of it. And if you could throw it to the other team, that would be recommended. Or hand it to Genty.
Yeah, let Ashton get beat up, because what does he have? I'm sure he has 15 years left in his career. He's the new Marcus Allen. He'll play until he's 42. No, you got limited moments with him. So all right. So look, I think he's got a chance to be really good. I know I give you grief, Lloyd, but this is an actual.
You are doing the reverse psychology right now. I know what you're doing.
This is a can't screw up moment for the Raiders. You bring in a great quarterback. If you can protect him, that's great. You got a really good running back, and you got one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Like, there's no way this goes poorly for you. This looks great.
I could think of a million ways that it could go poorly, but that's okay. You know what? You got to start somewhere. To be honest with you, I've become the empathy has hit me with the Raiders. Like I'm just like, well, there was a time where it was like, okay, this is our year. Every year I could do that, and even though it wasn't, I had that feeling. And finally, I have a really good feeling. I mean, last year's feeling was only like 7 wins. Like, okay, just get to 7 wins. I feel like the Raiders could get to 7 wins, but that did not happen. But this year, it's like everything feels like it's building the right way. Like it really does. They're bolstering the offensive line. You already have Genty. You have a great tight end, as you talked about. You brought in Kirk Cousins to mentor your number 1 overall pick. In fact, a quarterback that is so similar to Fernando Mendoza. It's like they're twins.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe not in the playing way, but in the spiritual way.
Okay. Look, I know you're dying to have some moral compass on your team, and if it's Kirk Cousins, good for you, man. That's great.
I'm fine. I'm good with it. And it's like $1.3 million going against their salary cap this year. Like it was such a smart move. It was such a great move. Like I'm fine with it.
He's not getting any of that bonus money because, I mean, let's be honest, he better not be out on the field that much.
No.
If it is, that's because something really
give
bad
it half
happened.
the season. You got about, let's just call it, give him maybe 7 games.
Okay, so let's talk about this though. Like, let's say that they're 500. How do you pull the plug on a quarterback that's actually doing relatively well for you? So either he crashes it into the ground and he's horrible and it makes it really easy, but that means you really stink, and so you're already behind the 8 ball. But if he's playing reasonably well, what can you really pull the plug on this kid?
No.
And then at that point, you've got veterans in the locker room like, oh, we're giving up on the season already?
Yeah,
and then
I gotcha.
It creates problems. Like, I don't know.
The thing is, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to come in and be. He's on the down. He's on the downward trend, anyways. Like,
but it'll be good enough.
He will be good enough, yes. But still, the future is Fernando Mendoza.
Yes, I agree.
And I think that the best part about Kirk Cousins is he understands who he is now. Like, you probably won't find a more outside of all the guaranteed money he takes. You won't find a more unselfish guy.
Yeah. All right, there's your good. Let's get to the bad.
Now the bad.
Well, we all remember the 85 defense of the Chicago Bears. Steve McMichael, who passed away a year ago after dealing with ALS and just really ravaged the last years of his life, has been diagnosed after multiple tests after he passed away a year ago with a serious CTE condition. And now his wife, Misty McMichael, is trying to raise the flag a bit, saying too many NFL players are developing ALS during life and diagnosed with CTE after death. I donated Steve's brain to inspire new research into the link between them. And apparently this is something that continues to get some evidence, according to a Dr. Ann McKee, director of the Boston University CTE Center. 6% of individuals with CTE also have ALS. So that's 6 out of 100 that have CTE also develop ALS. There's strong evidence linking repeated brain trauma and ALS. Yeah, you know what? It's something, when you see how great Steve McMichael was back in the day and what a powerful force he was, and to see how his life ended just miserably for one of the best players in the on that 85 Bears team, it breaks your heart. It really does. This guy was just an absolute beast for that Bears defense, and taken way too soon with ALS, and according to his wife, also with a nasty case of CTE as well. All right, take a break. Come back. We'll set the scene in the 2 o'clock hour. You will hear from the general manager of the Utah Mammoth, Bill Armstrong, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Back around it goes. Carlson waiting for it. He's got 2 goals tonight. Utah gets a handle. Schmaltz out for Keller at the empty net. He scores. Clayton Keller gets the hat trick and Utah's 7th goal of the night. 3 goals for the captain. It's his 3rd career hat trick, and there's a couple lids being tossed here at Rogers Arena.
Utah Mammoth, big one tonight. They take on Edmonton. Joining us now for his weekly conversation, he is the general manager of the Utah Mammoth, Bill Armstrong. Bill, you'd think that a 3-game road swing coming back with 6 points, you would have created a little bit of space for yourself in the playoffs, but everybody's staying there right with you.
Yeah, everybody wants to make it close, yeah, it's one of those things where we played pretty well on the road and were able to get three huge wins, but didn't create a ton of separation, but enough that if we take care of business, we got a path to get in.
Those were 3 great games, starting off the win against the Kings. You start out the gate really well in that one, and then Seattle, you go down 2-1 and really close to being 3-1. That one goal was waved off, and then the offense picks up. And then at Vancouver, looks like you're on your way to a big victory. They make it close, and then you pull away late. But one thing that's in common with all of those is offense, and you had 19 goals in 3 games on the road. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's been, that's what I love about our squad. Maybe when we're in December, we don't come back, in that game against Seattle. But, we weren't deterred at all. You could just see the fight. We settled in and kind of played. I think there's a great confidence on our team that we can score. So I think that's a huge thing for our guys. They believe in themselves, and, they're going to have to beat a very, very good squad tonight down at the Delta Center against Edmonton. But it's, I like where we're going. You can feel the confidence and the focus from the group.
How much of an uptick in or what do you attribute the uptick in the production on power plays to?
Well, I think for us, we've struggled on it during the course of the year. I think the group has come to realization, we got to shoot the puck. Once we start shooting that puck from all different areas, we send teams into a tailspin. And sometimes in a stubborn group, or guys that want to kind of do it their way, it takes a little while for them to come around. But I believe they've come around as a group, and they've found ways to put the puck in the net.
When you had those 4 days, so you play the game against the Kings, and then you have 4 days off before the game against Seattle, how beneficial in this tail end of the season where these games are crammed really close to each other and you have a stretch coming up at 4 of 6, but having that 4 days, how helpful was that for your squad?
It was, the problem was when you come off it, you're not very intense when you take the ice for the first bit. It took our group a little bit of time to kind of get our legs underneath us and get us back into that game-like intensity, because all year long we've played, game, day off, and you get into that rhythm and all of a sudden you have 4 days off. It kind of sends you for a little bit of a loop. But what I liked was the amount of rest our guys got. That'll pay dividends down here. Just remember we're trying to get into the playoffs, and our finish line is really our start line, and you got to have some energy, obviously, and some health as you get down to that point. So hopefully those days that we've accumulated, lately of rest will pay dividends at the end for us.
Your forwards being tested with some injuries, Hayton, McBain dealing with some stuff. Your depth, though, has stepped up well. Talk about those guys and how they've been able to handle stepping into some big roles.
Well, I think for us, we've got some young guys that can jump into the depths. We've got some older guys. You've got the, Liam O'Briens of the world, the Tanevs, the Kerfoots, the Yamamotos that are kind of in the Nick DeSimones. And, they're part of your team. They don't play every night, but they're a huge part of your team because when you do get banged up in injuries, they can come in and kind of hold that level of play against the best teams, and you need everybody during the course of the year. So it's tough for those guys. Sometimes it's not easy. They might go anywhere from 5 to 10 games and not play and then wait for their opportunity to get in, but they do a great job. They're consummate team players. And they give us that ability to have next man up. And that's an important part to have in your team. And right now it's a huge part as we're banged up down the middle of the ice.
One thing that's really impressed me as I continue to learn and try to appreciate individual performances, look, Cooley's going to get the love. Gunther's going to get the love. I think Sergachev on that blue line has been tremendous for you during this stretch.
Yeah, Sergey's a great D. He was a huge trade for us. I couldn't believe we actually pulled that one off because D-men like that at that age are really hard to find. And they're kind of your they're your pillars of your team. And he's been just a huge part of our team and just anchors it back there 22, 23, 24, 25 minutes worth of ice time every single night. And you know what you're getting from him. And he's a genius defensively. I love the way that he adds into the offense from the power play, too. So he's a big part of our team. He eats a lot of minutes.
Hey, when you look at a stat sheet after a game, how quickly do you look at winning faceoffs? Because it seems like that's something that you guys have been really good as of late.
Well, it comes and goes during the course of the season. We've had some young forwards, and, sometimes the linesmen, treat the younger guys a little bit different. They don't give them the jump start. So you go through some periods of time where they've got to kind of figure it out, and they've got to really work to kind of understand how to win that draw at crucial times of the game. Kevin Stenlund's probably one of the best in the business for us. He can dictate a game with his ability to win a draw. So it's a huge element of the game. And as your younger players get better at it, it's just, you're solidified from your first line to your fourth line. And it's taken the guys like Logan Cooley and Hayden a little bit of time to kind of get going in their career. But they've done a great job down the stretch here.
Edmonton's Edmonton. I mean, arguably the best player in the game. And watching him and his speed, his athleticism, everything he brings to the table. What do you guys have to bring tonight to try to get another W?
Well, he's tough to contain. I don't know if you can stop him completely, but you can have a great game plan and try and play a team defense and slow him down a little bit. And, and the other thing you have to realize, the guys that are surrounded around him are workers. They're grinders. They're gonna fight to the death every single night. So they might not be the most talented group around him, but they're going to work. And we have to make sure that we not only play him well, but we got to know when he's on the ice. Take care of business and put five in front of them and slow them down a little bit and see if we can create some other offense against the other lines.
Your offense, as we mentioned in the first part of the interview, it's just been absolutely clicking. How do you keep that hot hand going into the playoffs, where I think you've scored 4 goals or more in like 6 out of the last 7 games?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because you can see the guys get confidence, when that puck goes in for them. And Lawson Krause, you can see him snapping home the other night against Vancouver. But just, once they start scoring like that, there's a confidence that comes in, and they want the puck on their stick. And it's kind of a snowball effect that works in a positive way for your club. And right now we're hot, so our guys are feeling it. They want the puck. They want to take that shot. And for us tonight, what we didn't do against Edmonton the last time we played was shoot the puck. We got to shoot the puck against these guys. We got to put it on them. To be honest, we haven't been very good against Edmonton. And, our top 6 forwards, have to step up and find ways to get it done. They've got a couple big D back there that have caused us some headaches. The Nurses of the world, the Murphys of the world. The Bouchards and also the Ekholms. And we got to find our way around them tonight and put pucks and people at the net and create some offense. It's going to be a good challenge for us tonight to play against them.
No doubt. And looking ahead a little bit, you're in Calgary on Sunday. How emotional are those games for Uyghur when you go back to a team that you played for a while?
Well, I think it's a lot of emotion that you have. And, they give you the salute on the scoreboard and thank you. And then the other team comes out and runs you. So it's rather a quick exit of loving your past there and moving on very quickly. I think it's an emotional trip for him, obviously, to go back there and go through the whole playing in Calgary. But it's also good closure for him, and he's got a chance, to play for our team and help us get into the playoffs, and that'll be a huge game against them too.
All right, before we let you go, the dumb question of the interview is going to come courtesy of something my 14-year-old mentioned. We were watching the game the other night, and it was the second game, so the Seattle game, and there was like 5.5 minutes left, and the high stick call comes in and comes out with the double minor. And my son asked me, he's like, well, what's the double minor? I was explaining, well, you draw blood, you're going to get that extra 2 minutes. And he's like, well, you know what? If you bite your tongue enough, you could probably get a little bit of blood and show and maybe sell that thing a little bit. And I started laughing and I thought, well, wait a minute. Hockey guys, man, they're bleeding all over the place. I got to imagine they could probably sell a high sticking blood call. Have you ever heard of that? Or is that anything that's good that you've seen happen?
I mean, we're the only sport, I think, in the world that rewards a team for bleeding.
I know.
So it's kind of a unique feature that you get a penalty if you cut somebody with your stick, and they've done a better job over the course of the years of saying it's not just the blood. There has to be some form of injury. As you go down, there's got to be a little bit more of a wound there than just blood. So they've got smarter over the years at it, but we do have a scout on our staff who did cut himself on purpose to get an extra penalty. That's a true story to win a championship. So he's kind of was a career minor leaguer and drew some extra minutes on the board and ended up winning a championship because of it. And his whole philosophy: if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
All right. So my 14-year-old, he stumbled onto something. Then this is a common thing, or at least has been in the past.
Common thing, yeah. This
I love
has
it.
been a common thing for sure. But I think it's not as barbaric maybe as it was back in the day, but it's certainly a thing. And sometimes you can see the guy bite his tongue a little harder just to get a little more blood out of there.
Well, and honestly, too, I mean, the game was, for the most part, out of reach against Seattle. But if that's a one-goal game and there's 5.5 minutes left and you got a 4-minute power play, I mean, that pretty much ends it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the thing that you worry when you're up 2 goals in this game is taking a 4-minute penalty and putting the other team back in the mix rather quickly. And there's one thing that changes a comeback pretty quick is if you take some bad penalties and the other allow the team to come back. It's a common thread. So it's really something we got to stay away from and be smart with your stick. But for us, it was working in our favor in that game, so we didn't mind it.
Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us, Bill. Good luck tonight. It's always fun watching Edmonton on the ice, but go get that W. Get another couple points there.
That's great. Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, Bill Armstrong. He is the general manager of the Utah Mammoth right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, so you know what? I like that we stumbled onto something there. And the fact that he said he had a trainer that actually won a championship by inducing a little bit of blood and finding a way to sell that double minor. So there you go, Lloyd, learning something new every day.
In a way, it has a little bit of a soccer feel to it, outside of there's actual blood. And there's actual...
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, we've seen soccer players take dives all the time. It's like, you know what? Play the edge. Play the edge a little bit. It's not like they're not taking a beating anyway, so why not? Why not try to sell it? Now, soccer players, on the other hand, I don't know how much of a beating they're actually taking.
So the difference here is that a soccer player will just fake an injury.
Yes,
a hockey player will create an additional injury to sell the call. So, look, if a guy's making himself bleed, then you know what?
It's worth
He's earned it.
It's worth it. But man, that is because you started to see how it can change the game. Like all of a sudden you're on that 4-minute penalty they have. You're like, wow, that's a lot of time to try to have to kill. And that can completely alter the game down when you're up against it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, by the way, can't wait for this game against Edmonton coming up tonight. You'll hear it right here on the Zone. Starts at what, 7:30, Lloyd? Pregame 6:30 right here on the Zone?
That is correct. And this has got to be, I was listening to Mike Folta. He was on with DJ and PK earlier this morning, and it's like, this is like the game of the season. We talked about it yesterday. Yeah. Like Edmonton is a team that it's looking like that's who you could play in the first round of the playoffs if you get into the playoffs. And like they haven't beaten Edmonton like in their 2 years here in Utah. They have not. That's one of the teams they haven't beaten. And this is like the biggest game. Hate to say the biggest game of the regular season, but this is like your biggest game of the regular season. Like it feels like you have to make a statement against this team. Like, hey, we can play with you guys. We can skate with you guys. That's what we have here today, boys.
Oh, jeez.
One game. One game.
We play this team 10 times. Connor McDavid may win 9 out of 10, but not tonight.
Not tonight.
All right. But I think you bring up a really good point because Vancouver, I mean, they're horrible. They're not good. And then, so, you anticipated the Mammoth winning that game. And then you got the Kings. They're on the outside looking in. Now, they were hoping to win that game to try to keep themselves alive, but, it's not great for them. And then you look at Seattle. They definitely had to have that game. But, again, that's another team on the outside looking in. And right now, it doesn't look good for them. So you got 3 wins, and you got 6 points, which was great against 2 out of those 3 that were really trying to get that W, but just couldn't find a way to get it done because the Mammoth were the better team. So you've got a little bit of confidence rolling in, but now you are playing a team that is just look, they're not Colorado, but this is a really good team you're playing tonight with the best player in the NHL. So it's a bit of a litmus test. Just how good of a heater are you on right now? Just how well are you really playing? Because this will be a big test. And one thing I've noticed about this Mammoth team, and it's not like this is any stunning revelation, but Lloyd, this team is, whether it's home or road, I actually feel a little bit more comfortable talking about this team when they're on the road than I do when they're at home.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. Like right now, I know we talked about it. It just seems like they're more comfortable on the road where there's just not that added pressure. But eventually, you got to learn to win in front of your home team. Like you gotta put all that pressure behind you and get past it, because like when you go to those games, I'm telling you, that atmosphere with the Mammoth fans is electric. And I get it. There's a lot of road fans that kind of come in a little bit into some of these games, but man, the Mammoth fans they're fiery and there's something fun about it. And so it's like you got to start figuring out a way to win those home games. Like, yeah, I know we talked about it. You're going to be on the road with your first playoff game, but you got to learn. You got to figure a way to learn how to win on the road or win at home.
It's funny because we're so used to such a dominating home court advantage for so many years with the Jazz. And then you got Utah, BYU, and Utah State for so many years, football or basketball. Teams just don't play well here. And so we're used as a fan base to see an overwhelming just home court, home field advantage. And it just hasn't translated. And I don't know if that's a hockey thing or if that's just a Utah thing.
I think that's a hockey thing. I think what was it? Jay Stevens, I think he brought up something about 50%, 51% of home games. I can't remember who was. Somebody brought it up. Like, I don't think the home ice is as big in hockey as it is in other sports. I feel like there's a difference there. I'd have to do some research on that, but it seems like there's a little bit of a difference.
Well, this is a team that obviously wants to play well at home, and even Bill Armstrong's mentioned that sometimes that can be somewhat harmful into the point where it's like this team actually, because they care so much, kind of gets them out of their rhythm. But if they can channel who they were on that 3-game road trip, look, it's going to be a great opportunity. It's going to be a great opportunity to get those 2 points, and then you can really start putting plans together for the playoffs. Because Lloyd and I got an email from somebody today about, hey, what are your plans for the playoffs? And part of me was like, eesh. I don't know. I wasn't really comfortable reading that email, Lloyd.
Hey, we're going to do this. I'm not ready to respond to that email yet. I'm not quite ready to respond to that email.
Because I can't wait to see the playoffs here. This fan base is going to go nuts. They're going to lose their mind, and they deserve it because it's been a long time since we've seen meaningful games here in Utah in April and May. The Jazz, now you're looking at, 4 years since the Jazz were in the playoffs, and it's been kind of a dry spell for this city when it comes to playing those types of atmospheres or playing in front of that kind of atmosphere in the Delta Center. Now it comes back. This is going to be a rabid fan base. They've shown that over and over, and you want a team that can be able to respond and really channel that and find a way to get it done. All right, Big T is going to join us next. Thurl Bailey, he'll be our friend coming up for the next segment of the show. Matt's with us right now. We are at My Hearing Center. Call right now, 801-438-7058. That's 801-438-7058. You've got the technology to hear better. You've got the the test to be able to find out exactly what you're dealing with. There seems to be this run of maybe going to a box store and opening up a value pack of hearing aids, or look, you got to take this stuff seriously. You get what you pay for, and this is important that you take this seriously and you get the valuable hearing aids that are right for you and customized specifically for you.
Yeah, we get a lot of patients that kind of run into this. Hearing aids is a commodity issue.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the reality is, you can go buy hearing aids. They're called OTC products, over-the-counter hearing aids that are newer classification of hearing aid. They don't have the same functionality. They're really good if you have a mild hearing loss. I mean, the majority of our hearing aid wearers have passed mild hearing loss back in their 30s or 40s. They're just way past it. Our average new hearing aid wearer is in their mid to early 60s, and so typically when you're coming to see us, you've passed mild. You're past that point, and what you need is very prescriptive amplification that can hone in specifically on the areas of hearing where you're seeing diminished results. Isolate those and then present prescriptive amplification at those frequencies so that you can hear the sounds that you're missing.
Every time we come here, it seems like there is a new and improved model of hearing aids. So the technology is improving like crazy. Mm-hmm. What's a year mark that where you've had hearing aids for X amount of years, you should probably come in, because I think that's another demographic of our listener that we're not talking about, is guys that have hearing aids but have had them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years that could improve it with a new set. Is there a line where you're like, hey, if it's more than this year's old, then you should probably come in here and get them looked at?
Yeah, most insurances reset your hearing benefit around 3 or 5 years, depending, right? 3 to 5 years is a good time to start looking for new hearing aids. In fact, if our patients are looking for new hearing aids, that's typically we'll recommend a new set. A lot of it has to do with technology. Sometimes it has to do with the diminished hearing that they have. But most of the time, it's just that they want to take advantage of what's new and what's improved. Right now, the newest hearing aids, we have 36 hours of use. Right, 2 years ago, it was 24 hours a year of use. 2 years before that, I wouldn't have recommended rechargeable hearing aids. Right, I mean that's where things progress. So if you have hearing aids that are 4, 5, 6 years old, chances are you might be still replacing a battery every night or every couple of days. If that's where you're at. And if you're getting new hearing aids, that's what you're doing, you're replacing a battery, there's a lot better options. And why is that important, right? Somebody's going to say, well, you don't need to worry about rechargeable hearing aids aren't that great. And actually, we can now self-contain the hearing aids. So the moisture and the dust levels that hearing aid can take are a lot higher than one that has a battery compartment that has to be open and closed, meaning that the hearing aid is going to last longer because it's not getting exposure into the elements, right? So all those reasons, I mean, they seem really simple, but have a self-contained battery at this point in time. Have a battery charger. Have the hearing aid that's going to last longer and work better for you. Again, if you haven't experienced a new technology, it's 4 or 5 years old, the current hearing aids you have, come in. You're going to be able to try them risk-free for 30 days. Here's the worst-case scenario. You say thank you. You give them back to us. We give you a gift card for some movie tickets.
And off you go.
Best-case scenario, you'll find that these are actually improved on your current hearing aids, and you have a backup pair with your currents, and you got the brand new set to use for your dailies.
It's really simple. It all starts with a phone call. The test is free. The 30-day evaluation is free. 801-438-7058. How many times do people call on behalf of somebody?
It's about 50-50.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, about 50% of the time it's the spouse that's saying, hey, my spouse, can we get in? And you're like, of course you can. Yeah, we'll take care of it. And we encourage the spouse to come with your loved one because, again, it's a big step. They're going to have to make some medical decisions. They probably want you involved. And we also use your voice in the testing.
801-438-7058. It's My Hearing Center right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Big T, Thurl Bailey's going to join us coming up here in just a moment. Remember, it is a Tuesday. It is the last time we will do this, a Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Can't thank the Jazz enough for letting us be a part of this. It's, I want to say 3-4 consecutive years we've been doing this, Jazz Ticket Tuesday. So, caller number 12, 801-575-ZONE. You'll win a pair of tickets, see the Jazz and the Grizzlies. It's the final home game of the season on April 10th. Game starts at 7:30. You want those tickets? Make sure to call and claim them. And if you don't, that's fine. We'll give away another pair next hour, and the hour after that, and the hour after that. So, Jazz Ticket Tuesday, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This segment brought to you in part by University of Utah Health, for you, for life. Jazz in action tonight. Just 3 games left for the Jazz. They'll take on the Pelicans as the Jazz looking to ride off into the sunset for this season and then get set for a season next year that certainly is going to have a lot more at stake for the Jazz based on the fact Jaren Jackson Jr. will be back, will be healthy. This entire team will be back and healthy. And then it's off to the races in terms of trying to get yourself back into the playoffs after a few years of bottoming this thing out. Jazz look to get back into a groove coming up next year. But 3 games left to go, and joining us now, the man, the myth, the legend, Thurl Bailey, not only has got the best voice on an NBA pregame, halftime, and postgame show and during the game itself, but also the host of the Rise and Grind podcast as well. You enjoying the podcasting world?
I am loving it, and I had a taste of it a few years ago, but I wanted to do my own thing and decided to jump back in and do some storytelling, hopefully some inspirational storytelling from people who, all of us. I don't know anybody who hasn't, had a dream of doing something, being successful, and a lot of people are kind of talked out of that sometimes, and I think they just need some inspiration and hear other people that are like them and have some of the same ideas. So I decided to look at all industries, from sports to business to youth, and then find those stories that woke people up in the morning and started to grind, and they kept it going through difficult times. So I really enjoy learning myself from a lot of people who want to tell their stories and hopefully inspire other people to do the same.
Before we get to the Jazz, there's a lot of talented people out there that are successful, but there's a lot of people that just work harder than everybody else. And, we joke about the term grinding, but there's some guys out there that just are willing to put in the work and may not be as talented as somebody else. I bet there's been a lot of great players that could have had huge careers in the NBA, but only Michael Jordan had that work ethic. There are certain guys that combine the talent and the work ethic to be truly special. And, that's got to be part of your DNA as much as the talent is.
Yeah, I think so. And I think sometimes, sports is kind of an outlier because it's a lot of it has to do, there's some great stories out there, don't get me wrong, but it's an ideal world. Right, it's not necessarily a real world situation, and there's only a few who are, there's a lot of kids put the work in, but it's not all the times that every great player makes it to that level. Yeah. Right. So there's a select few, and there are players who are probably better or more equipped than some who have made it that just haven't gotten the opportunity. But I think my thing is that a lot of times just in our life, we're kind of talked out of it. We go through things that throw us off course, and we never get back to those dreams. And, so it's the difficult times. It's the times we try to talk ourselves out of things because we're afraid to fail. And those people who have been successful have learned that, failure is part of it. You just have to tweak it and keep going. So that's why I really enjoy storytelling myself and also seeing how other people have done it.
It's the Rise and Grind podcast with Thurl Bailey. The Jazz grinding through this season. 3 games left. You got New Orleans coming up tonight. The Jazz trying to position themselves the best place they possibly can be for the upcoming draft. But this season feels quite a bit different than last year. When that season ended last year, I know that was a hard season for everybody involved. But this season, even though the wins may not have been there, it just feels like there's a different vibe around this team. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, I would agree with you because I think we're much closer to just pushing ahead. Some things have been done. I mean, the Triple J trade, obviously was a sign that we are starting to take those assets and trying to get to a point where we can power forward through, to the playoffs and hopefully chase a championship. But the other part of this is knowing that we've got a core group of guys. So what are you going to build around them? I mean, who are these young players who are going to make their mark and maybe get a spot on the team? So it's been fun for me and Bowler to watch the development of some of these young players and who are getting an extended opportunity right now to go out and showcase themselves and prove that they belong at this level, belong to stay at this level.
Ace Bailey is going to be a great player in this league. I don't think there's any doubt. But at this time of year when there's going to be a lot of opportunities, some of these guys are going to score points, but that's just because there's a lot of shots to be had. But I like the way he's getting those points. I like the way that he's getting to the free throw line. He's finishing at the rim. There's a lot to be excited about his in-season development throughout the course of his rookie year. What have you seen from him? And I know that injuries may have caught up with him coming into this game tonight, but what have you seen about his development with these extended opportunities he's been getting?
Well, I think under the circumstances with this team, he has probably benefited. He's one of maybe 2 or 3 guys who have benefited the most from it because he has really been highlighted in a lot of ways. His skills, his talent, offensively, at times he's the primary scorer, so he's had to go in there and work things through and figure it out. In ISOs, on the defensive end, on the help side, his athleticism, contributing to a lot of the blocks he's had and steals he's had. Offensively, we know he's athletic. And I think early on, what we only saw was him being kind of a secondary, even maybe not even that, just trying to put himself in a position to go off the dribble. But now I think his confidence is there where you can give him the ball and he can come off a screen and he can make a play, whether it's for him or somebody else. So I've seen a lot of growth, a lot of confidence in him. And I got to sit down with him in our last installment of Bailey to Bailey and just talk about his first season and what he's learned the most. And he just praises his teammates. What I did was I went back in the time machine. I said, I remember your first summer league game, and you weren't very good. It didn't work out very well for you. I said, and I told him I knew how that feeling was, being a high draft pick and all the expectations that come with it, and you won it right now. He said, I did. I said, what's the difference between Ace Bailey then and Ace Bailey now? He said, confidence. He said, I was just patient. I let it come to me. I was coachable, and I learned how to play at this level. I learned the language. I learned the positions. And so you can see all that coming to fruition now for him. And the exciting thing is what's ahead for him. Like you said, Scotty, he's going to be a really good player in this league.
What have you seen out of the development of Cody Williams over the last couple months?
Really proud of him. I think unfairly, when you're a younger brother of a star in this league, people like to compare you. They like to project you. Are you going to be as good as him or better than him? Or what should we expect now that we've seen him play? What do we get out of you? And it's just an unfair comparison. But what I'm really proud of is Cody has done it his own way, right? He's done the G League. He's gotten the reps there. And maybe unfair to him, last year just kind of thrown into the fire and expected to go out and guard and be successful against some of the best players in the league. But I think over the summer, he knew he had to work on his body, and so it started there. And he had to focus on defense, let the offensive game come to him. But the body part paid off early because getting to the rim. I mean, before that, he was finessing everything, but a lot of dunks this year, a lot of dunks. And now he's really stretched that out. His defense is better, but offensively, he's working on some things. The dribble, the fadeaway in the mid-range. So his confidence is there as well. It really has benefited him to get those extended minutes as well.
I appreciate guys that, look, if you're in the NBA, at some point you're a high-level scorer, you're the best player on your team, and you had all the accolades. So for a player to come into the NBA and realize, okay, I'm not that at the NBA level, I've got to find a role and really sink my teeth into it to be able to carve out a living. And a guy like John Concher, I don't know what his future holds in Utah. I don't know what his future holds in the NBA, but I love a guy that says, okay, you know what? I need to do the little things. I need to do the dirty work. If that's what it takes for me to stay out here on the court and earn a living, I'm going to do that. And I think the league benefits when there's guys out there that really appreciate and understand their roles and accept them.
Well, I love that you have brought that up, and you appreciate that, because as a former player, that sticks out to me, right? Everybody can see the guy who is a designated scorer. Everybody can see the guy who may be the great rim protector. But I really think what this league is about collectively is all the guys around them that support them, the guys that go out and they're grinding, if you will. They're fighting to get a name for themselves, and they know that, look, they maybe have been the best scorers, as you said, before that level, but it really is about playing a role, and it's about embracing that and being good at that and giving the team what it needs. And John is a guy who he finds a way, Scotty, to be impactful every time. And no matter how many minutes that is, he goes in and does those things. And look, I know personally, I mean, as a player, I know he's a better three-point shooter than he's showing. And that will come. I don't think he's worried about it. I think this is a time for him, to try to get some of that rhythm and then work on it in the summer. But he's a guy that I like. He's a glue guy. He's a impact guy. When, you've got to bring somebody on the bench to rest, you don't want the game to get away from you. And so he's that kind of guy, and I like what he brings. And Elijah Harkless is another one of those gritty guys that just is not afraid to stick his nose in there and come out with blood on it. But whoever the offensive player is, they're gonna feel him, and I love what he brings to the game.
When the cavalry comes back and everybody's healthy and this team's firing on all cylinders, what kind of role can Kyle Filipowski have with a team like that?
I love that. It's crazy that I get to do what I do, and I love doing it because I have a perspective maybe that's a lot of people don't have. As a former player, as a player who can see beyond the normal. But Flip has figured it out, right? I was proud of him in the Summer League just because, one, he was MVP, but he earned it. But that was a different Flip than I saw earlier in this season. And then something happened, whether it was him getting all those minutes, him being asked to do more than he thought he would have to do at 4 or 5 position, defensively and offensively. But he looks like even a little more than that Flip that we saw in the Summer League because he's not worried about anything. He's not worried about making mistakes. He knows he's going to get minutes. He knows he's going to make mistakes. He's not hesitating. He's playing instinctively, and he's gotten better all the way around. He's just working harder. And, I'm sure it's wearing him out a bit, but he doesn't care. He's physical. He's learned how to use that. I think he is going to be a great asset And look, we all don't know. There's a lot of unknowns this coming year. There's some knowns, but there's a lot of unknowns as far as after that 6th, 7th, maybe 8th man rotation, who's going to be in that. But I think Kyle is making a great, great case to be a major, major part of this Jazz squad.
All right, I know I got to let you go. Couple quick questions. You've been around the league. You've seen all these guys. Look, I know that Cooper Flagg's going to be one of the best players in the league. He's going to be phenomenal. He's got all-stars. He'll probably win a championship or two. I think Con Knipple, though, has had the better season, and if I had to vote, I would give him the Rookie of the Year over Cooper Flagg. Am I off base on that?
No, I said that. I was sitting with my broadcast team, and we were throwing that around, and we had a guest sitting with us that works for the Mavs. And, of course, you know which way he went. But
yeah.
I beg to differ. I mean, I think the same thing. I think Con Knipple has earned it. Cooper Flagg is going to be great, as you said. I think his body of work as of late has been fantastic. I think some of that is also based on his usage and what he's asked to do on that team. He's basically a point forward, and he's got the brightest green light maybe in the league, if you will. But, I think if I were voting, it might be close, but I think Knipple would win it for me because of his consistency that he's had throughout the season. So it's going to be close, but I look at things in a different way. I'm not sure, how they're going to look at it, whether that 50 point games will, tilt them one way or the other. It's impressive, but for me, it is Knipple.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Thurl, we appreciate it. Have a great call tonight. Tell Bowler hi for us, and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
I will, Scotty. Thank you, brother.
You are the best, man. And we all got a little cooler just hanging out with Thurl Bailey. Hey, before we go to break, we have another golfer to hand out. Caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. And Lloyd will give you a player to root for in the Masters. If your golfer ends up winning the Masters, you will win 18 holes for 2 at Copper Rock Golf Course in southern Utah. We'll even give you a $100 gas gift card to get down there. Copper Rock, where the pros play. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We'll wrap up this bad boy next.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I like where you're going with this, Lloyd. Have you seen some of these pictures coming out from this from Artemis? This is incredible.
If they are real.
Oh, I know, right? You have a hard time believing anything now.
I told that to Maddie earlier, and she was not happy. She's been demanding I play Dark Side of the Moon, and she was not happy that I was Mr. Conspiracy.
That they're staging this one, too?
Yeah, she was not happy about it.
I mean, they almost look real enough. So real that it's like...
It's too real.
Yeah.
Looks pretty fake to me.
Would you stop trying to badger people around the office?
I'm not badgering anybody. I'm not. I'm just, you know what? It's okay to ask questions. Why not?
Challenge everything.
Challenge everything. Absolutely. It's not accept everything.
Oh, boy. I'm sure that goes over well. I'm sure people really enjoy that. That's probably good for you. All right. Big thanks to everybody who joined us on the show today. We had a fun one. And if you missed any of it, make sure to go back to the podcast feed. Just search Scotty G in your podcasting platform of choice, and you'll hear from Bill Armstrong. You'll hear from Tim LaComb, who joined us right out of the gate. Just some really fun conversations. And, of course, that one with Thurl Bailey. And remember his podcast, the Rise and Grind podcast. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. JJ and Alex coming up next.